Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Digital Success Hot Seat. It's Leanne Cohen's here, Digital Success Catalyst and owner of Marketing Leap. And today I'm really excited to have a friend of mine, Karen O'Connor. She has been a property developer, or is a property developer, and she started a podcast all about motherhood, marriage, and menopause. So I'm really excited to hear her tips today and what she has to share. So I will welcome. Hey, Karen, how are you?
Hey, thanks for inviting me on. I'm so excited. This is so cool.
Awesome.
I
All
do
righty.
kind of but I don't know anything. But no, I don't.
Well, as I say, I mean that there's so many people out there that actually don't know what you know. So which is why you're here. So how do you go from property development? I mean, we'll get into the personal side in a minute. I mean, the fact that you've stayed married to the same man for 30 years after having 4 kids is a miracle. I huge thumbs up. Well done. But how do you go from property development to podcasting?
So we've been property developing. So my background is actually in construction. So I'm actually a quantity surveyor. And when I graduated from university in the late 80s, 1987, I worked on a building site. So that was actually where I met my husband, because he was the site engineer on the first site that I was surveyor on. So that was how we met. So when we moved over to Australia, after, I don't know, however long it was, we thought, John was working on sites and doing developments for other people. I had 3 kids at this time. I was pregnant with the 4th, and he decided that he wanted to do his own developments. And we'd done a load of personal development stuff. And I'm just like, yeah, go for it. That sounds like a great idea. So he quit his job. And
with 3 kids and you're pregnant.
With 3 kids, and I was 6 months pregnant with the 4th. And the first development that we did, because we'd been doing renovations and stuff, because I'd been mainly a stay-at-home mum for a while by this time, because obviously I had 3 kids, 3 young kids. I think the eldest was 8 at the time. And so I'd been kind of working in the background, doing a bit of, contract work for people, but not actually going into an office. And and so he said, all right, let's go do this. And the first development we did was actually a $10 million subdivision. So we just
started small.
We started small. We'd done a few renovations, which I'd been in charge of, and flipping and vendor finance and stuff. So I'd already been involved in that side of things. But it's a lot of work for not much profit. So because our background is in big construction projects, we both just went, oh, well, 10 million isn't a big deal. We've both worked on jobs worth 25, 30, 40 million. So yeah, not a problem. So, and we've not looked back, and I've worked in the background. I've never been the front man on the developments, because by then, having 4 kids, it just wasn't practical. I did do for a few years. We had several businesses that I was heavily involved in. I did the whole nannying thing. But looking after, having a nanny to look after the kids and all that kind of stuff. But it didn't sit right with me. So I left the businesses to look after the 4 kids. And because you know what it's like when you've got kids, and especially as they start to hit their teenage years, all you do is ferry children around. So you get up in the morning, you're dealing with the kids, and then that's your entire life. And I found myself a few years ago, about 4 years, going on 4 years ago now, I didn't know what to do. Kids were leaving home, and I didn't really have a focus in life. John's been doing the developments for God knows how many years by this time, and I wasn't really needed other than in a supportive role when necessary. And one of my kids bought me a book for Mother's Day called Blogging for Dummies, because he said he couldn't find a book titled Blogging for Middle-Aged Women. So I started blogging. And I signed up for this program with Katrina Ruth, Cat Laterzo, called Rich Chick Coaching. And
she's a powerhouse.
She's amazing. And I came across one of her books, and I signed up for a mailing list. And literally 2 days later, this email came out about she'd decided to run this Rich Chick coaching course again. So I just went, yeah, okay, I'll do that. I've done some life coaching, I'll build my own little business. But what I didn't realize at that point was that two things, right? She condensed a 6-month course into 6 weeks, as only Kat can do. And the second thing is that as part of the program, I had to actually build an online business. And I'd never done this before, didn't know anything about it. So in 6 weeks. So there's this whole world of friggin' funnels and opt-ins and calls to action. I mean, what the hell's a call to action? I've never even heard of the term. Never mind SEOs and sending out emails and getting all this stuff. So all of a sudden, I was just found myself embroiled in all this online stuff and on this massive learning curve. So I spent about 3 years basically blogging and trying to build a business, but it never kind of sat right. And then last year I was over in the UK with my brother. I'm from the UK, obviously. We live on the Gold Coast now. And my brother used to be a radio presenter. And I'm like, oh my God, you've got the gift of the gab. And he's like, seriously, we're from the same family. Yeah. Why don't you start a podcast rather than just blogging? So I had a bit of a think about it, and I thought, what never really sat right with me with the blogging was it's just me talking at people. But what I really enjoy doing is finding out about people, who they are, what their stories are, how they've got over things. Because we've all got a really fascinating story to share. And people like to tell me their stories. The kids always make fun of me because I'm one of those people that people will walk up to in the street and start telling their stories to. I've always been like that. So the podcasting has just been the best medium to do that, to actually connect with people and find out their stories and share stuff and feel like I can contribute without actually feeling at arm's length, you know? I don't want to teach people. I want to find out about people. So that's kind of the difference. And I'm going to apologize now because I've got a snotty nose because I've been drinking milk. I like milk in my tea. So but it gives me a runny nose.
I would never even know it, actually.
Oh, well, I'm sitting here sniffing. I'm going, oh my God, I've just got to blow my nose. Excuse me, 1 minute. Right, I'm cool now.
Oh. Oh God, you're a crack up. So, okay, so you had this, you signed up for this 6-month course that you had to do in 6 weeks, and then you said 3 years later. So, like with all of that, obviously the biggest things is, you know, like I've often said to people that the online space and learning the online space is like learning a whole new language. What were some of the challenges that you faced or that you found for you starting out? I mean, going from, I mean, that's a big jump from, you know, quantity surveying to blogging and trying to create an online business.
Yes. So I think the biggest challenge for me personally is I'm really not interested in like SEOs and all that kind of stuff. And I try and read it like hand on heart. I've really tried to research it and I just fall asleep like 10 seconds. I go cross-eyed and I don't take anything on. Kat was actually great for that because she doesn't believe in any of that kind of stuff. She just goes, no, get it out there. It's all in your energy. But there are still things you need to do. Mm-hmm. Seriously, my biggest challenge is actually SEO and the technical stuff. That I still have not got a handle on that. So I've now got a WordPress site. So I have had to do everything, build my own website and, you know, set up the funnels and do courses. And I have done an awful lot. So I have built courses and I've done them on Thinkific and I've done ActiveCampaign and I'm pretty sure I did. Oh, what's that other one? The big one that does everything for you. Can't remember. Everybody's on it.
There's a couple.
You know,
there's
it does the landing.
Kajabi.
Yeah, no, it's kind of like
not Thrive.
No,
the Thrive Beans.
It's what it does, like landing pages and funnels.
Oh, ClickFunnels.
Yeah, it's like ClickFunnels is another one as well. So I've done ClickFunnels, I've done everything. It was just literally two things. One was actually the actual technical stuff of learning it all, you know, because I was on a massive learning curve and I did start working with Kat one-on-one, but that was all mindset. None of it was actually practical. This is how you do it. So I did have to teach myself all that. But the second thing, so apart from all the technical stuff that you have to learn, the second one was actually that it's okay to just be who you are. Like that was not in my world at all. You've got to do things a certain way, and everything you read, it's like, if you're going to be successful online, what's your point of difference? Who's your market? What's your avatar? And they go through all this stuff, and I'm like, oh, no, don't want to do that. I mean, I've kind of got it now, but it didn't give me any freedom. So that sort of, it was those two things, really, the technical stuff and the being okay to, what do you really want to talk about? Well, I want to talk about midlife crises for women, midlife crises, women, because that's what I'm actually really interested in, and I want to talk about it, and it needs to get out there more. So yeah, those two things were my biggest challenges. That and I am definitely shiny object syndrome, massively shiny object syndrome. So I'm like, oh, that looks interesting, I'll go and try that. So I've swapped.
And I think that's the thing. That's the thing with a lot of it, especially when you start online. It's so easy to get dragged in so many different directions, and everyone's promising you the world. No one actually sits down, and that was really the whole purpose for me starting this whole interview series, is because there's so many business owners like yourself who've started, and then they get 3 or 4 years down the track and you're running off this way and that way, and there are some people that just still aren't making money after that amount of time, but they're chasing this almost elusive dream of this online business. So that was, the whole purpose of this, is to put people like yourself out there who've done this. And it's still, and you're right, the shiny object syndrome is massive. So you're saying you're talking about courses and funnels. What kind of courses? I mean, how do you take a blog about women's midlife crises and turn that into a course? So
it's basically, most of the courses I did were around getting to know what you want. So I was taking myself, like, what did I want? What was my purpose in life? I've been a stay-at-home mum for however many years, 10 years. And, for 20 odd years, my sole, persona, I'm known as mum. I'm known as Jamie's mum or Kira's mum, And
you don't have a name anymore.
No, I don't have a name anymore. Or Mrs. O. Mrs. O, how you going? So Jamie's mum, like, far out, seriously. So my programs were what I would have wanted to hear. And that's still my driver now, is what did I need when I was going through that isn't provided? And the other thing is, although I've said, I'm a bright, shiny object kind of person, which I am because I like learning things and I like trying things, I also think that's an important process to go through, because you've got to find what doesn't work. If you're in a space that you don't really know what you want and you're really not clear, you've got to keep trying on different outfits. Okay, does this one work? Does this one work? It's almost like you're a teenager again. When you're going through your teenage years and you look at a cool kid and you go, oh, she's really cool, I'm going to try what they're doing. And you try it on and you go, ew, no, it's a bit skanky, don't want to do that. So you try something else until, by the time you hit your mid-20s, 30, you're like, okay, I know who I am now. Maybe that was just me. I was a bit of a late bloomer. But it's the same. It was the same for me when I was going through menopause as well, and with the kids leaving home, like, who is it I want to be? So doing all the different things, doing the blogging, doing the programs, doing the podcasting, I cannot tell you how much money I've spent on online courses. It's just a ridiculous amount. I'm learning how to build a business online. I'm talking about here. I have spent a fortune, but it was great because I take little bits of all of it, and I wouldn't tell anybody not to do it. And honest to God, if somebody's at that midlife point or any point where they're going, I want to do something online, but I don't know what it is, seriously, just keep trying. Just keep trying until you find what you're good at, and don't make yourself wrong for not knowing straight away, because it really is a growth. It's a process. And
it's a whole new set of skills.
It's a whole new set of skill. Like just that learning. I know I have a friend that I met when I first started online. She was on the Rich Chick coaching as well. And when she was building a website, she wanted to do a 2-minute introduction video for the landing page on her website. And I tell no lies here, she did 87 takes of that video before she felt it was good enough to put up there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like she'd go, before she was doing a live stream or anything, because there was 3 of us had a group together, she'd have to get the fake tan done, she'd have to get her hair done, she'd have to get the nails done. I'm like, mate, seriously, nobody can sing it that well.
But it's funny. I mean, I know, like even with everything that I've done, the first time that I had to do a live video, and there's another lady here in Queensland called Melissa Groom, and she runs a 30-day video challenge, which is awesome for people starting out because it's a private group. If you stuff up, it doesn't matter. Everyone's in the same boat. But yeah, it took me 3 days. And even then it was edited like you wouldn't believe. And that was the first video, so it's the first time is hard, and it's like everything, once you get going and you get over the fear of what people think, and I think one of the biggest things that really resonated with me is, what you have to share with people is far more important, and you're being so selfish if you don't share your message out there.
Yes.
And I think for women, that's a big thing.
It's huge. And yeah, you're right. That's actually one of the biggest different points of difference, whatever things that's made a biggest difference for me as well, is like, you don't have to be the best at what you're doing. You don't have to be number one. You don't have to be the most famous person in the world, because you got no idea who you're connecting with and who you're making a difference to. You got no idea. And most of the time you never find out. Somebody will contact you years later and say, oh, do you remember that article you wrote? I'm like, no, maybe. But it just for them at that point. And like I said to a few people, if I make a difference in one person's life every day, job done. It's all I require, job done. It doesn't have to be earth-shattering or doesn't have to change society. You just make a difference to one person. That's all. And that's all if we all did that, everything would change really, really quickly. And I think and that's one of the big things I've learned out of doing all these courses on how to run a business online, is just do what feels right. Seriously, go and learn lots of stuff, try it all on, and then do what you enjoy doing. Because if you don't enjoy doing it, I guarantee you're not going to stick at it, because it becomes really hard work, especially because you're not at work and nobody's looking over your shoulder to make you do it.
True. No one's pushing you.
Nobody's pushing you, and you can only push yourself for so long before it becomes soul destroying. So just get out there and do something. And I've got I do my website myself. It's not that good, but I think it looks pretty good. But I have to put an awful lot of time into it, because I do my website, and sometimes I'm like, oh, this is driving me freaking insane. I don't want to do this anymore. Oh my God. So yeah, as soon as I can, it's like handball it to somebody else. As soon as you possibly, the stuff you don't like doing, so that you can focus on what you do like doing. I kind of went off track then. Sorry.
But but that's the whole thing, is really sticking to your zone of genius. If this is what you're good at, and see, I'm in the opposite boat to you in the fact that, I come from a marketing background, so all the techie stuff is really interesting, and I know all the techie stuff. The hard part for me now is handing it over to my team. And I've quite often caught myself handing it over and going, oh, look, I'll just do that, because, you've got this and this to do. So I'm on the opposite end. It's like, I've got to learn to just let go, But the other thing I found fascinating, is you said about creating the course that you wanted.
Yeah.
When you were going through. And yeah, it's I mean, I know we had this conversation the other day that, you know, you all have different stages in life, and until you actually get to that particular stage, you don't really understand what people are going through. And
No.
I know the first time it hit me that, you know, my boys were men or young men and starting to have a life of their own, and, you know, they were questioning me. I'd say, hey, I'm the parent, do as you're told, you know. And then you suddenly realize that, well, hang on a second, they're young men now. And it's scary. You know, you stop being the center of their universe.
You do. And I think that conversation that we had the other day brought so much home to me, because I was watching your face and I just wanted to reach through and give you a big hug, because I'm going, oh my gosh, I know exactly what she's feeling. So to kind of put it into context, we were in a conversation the other day where some of the other ladies were talking about their morning routine and how they spend several hours in a morning just, you know, on self-care and getting their day sorted and all that kind of thing. And when you've got kids, 10 minutes and you've done really well. You know, if you can have your cup of tea without the kids coming in and asking for something, you're on a roll, mate. You know, there's none of this, well, I have to spend 2 hours on my day's shot if I don't do that. And that's exaggerating a bit, but that was the kind of thing. But it's like, you know, again, if I'd heard at the time, because when I started and I was in Kat's, Katrina Ruth's Inner Circle and everything, they were all childless women, generally in their 30s, and they couldn't relate to when I'm going, I haven't got the time to spend an hour in the morning doing a meditation, doing my journaling, getting my day sorted, just taking care of myself. Like, it's not going to happen. I've got 4 kids, 3 horses, 2 dogs, and 3 cats. Like, totally not going to happen, mate.
But that's it. It's meeting people where they're at too.
Yes,
and that's what I love.
is.
Like you were saying, like you create this course because there was nothing out there when you were, you know, as you were going through this. And it's amazing. Like I have a girlfriend whose daughter had really bad postnatal depression. So she started blogging and then started getting on Instagram and posting up baking and cooking and things that she did for her boys. Now she is actually an influencer, although if you said that to her, she'd probably laugh. But, you know, she has got so many young mothers following her now because she posts up, well, this is what I put in my son's lunchbox, and this is how I empty my fridge, and this is what I do with leftovers. And she's sort of meeting, because that's where she's at that point in time. That's where she's meeting these women and these young women who are going, nobody ever trained me for this. You know, well, what do I do now? So yeah, the fact that you've started this podcast specifically for women going through the stage that we're going through is huge, you know, and dealing with your children as adults. You know, I mean, I know it's made me a lot more understanding and forgiving of my parents, you know, at this stage, because no one teaches you.
No, they don't. And that was what I was going to say. I think we've started talking about certain topics in women's lives, you know, like childbirth and everything, and maybe a little bit for the first few years afterwards. But then what happens when they hit teenage years? I remember going to a talk at school, and I think my eldest was in about year 8 at the time. And and it was a professional video that the education department in WA, actually I think it was a nationwide thing, were talking to parents about how to talk to your kids that's turning like 12, 13, 14. And I remember watching it and going, I said to the teacher afterwards, I said, seriously, if I talked to my kids like that, shoot me now, because you're really talking down to them rather than talking to them as people. They're inexperienced people with their own personalities, their own future and everything. So that part of it, I kind of I was okay with it, but like, what the bit I found difficult was when, you know, you're talking to this 6'2" young man, and he's, you know, with his deep voice, with his chin, you know, comes to about here on me, and he's talking to me, and then all of a sudden he turns into a 5-year-old, and you go, hang on,
Yeah.
who am I talking to here? But nobody prepares you for that. Nobody prepares you for the hormone changes, the sleepless nights, that how do you transition from full-time mum to they don't need you as much to, you know, you've got to pick them up from some party at 2 a.m. and cram them in the car when they're roaring drunk, like, or pull the car over so they can vomit, you know? How do we transition through that? And how do we transition through the empty nest? And communication, I just want to share people's stories and connect with people so that the stories are out there. So like your friend whose daughter's the influencer, nobody teaches us, like you say, nobody teaches us how to empty the fridge or what to put in their lunchbox or shortcuts in the cutlery drawer or how to keep the kids from using the pans as shields and weapons against their siblings, you know? It's kind of not discussed, and I want to discuss it. I want to talk about it and share. And that's the most important thing, because I felt completely isolated, like you often do as a new mother. You feel completely isolated, and it's that needs to be spoken about. And the other thing is, you know, I was 50. I'm just trying to work this out now. 53 when I started all this, and that's, you know, people are going, oh, you're my husband's shocking. Like, swear to God, he's shocking. Like, cannot use technology. It drives me frigging insane. But I was never in the headspace of, well, I can't do it because I'm too old. I just went on and did it. So that's the other thing. It's not an age issue. It's whether you're interested in this or not. Really, that's the main thing. If you want to do something, go ahead and do it. Seriously, age is not an issue. Not an issue. The internet doesn't know I'm 57. It's not going to stop me because it says I'm too old. It's really not. It's all like here in my head.
Yeah.
If I think I'm too old, I'm too old. If I'm not, I'm not. That lecture over.
So would you say that is sort of one of your biggest wins, the fact that you've actually found, to use the term, your niche, like you've found your space?
Yeah, I think honestly the biggest win is being okay with the fact that I don't want to build funnels and I don't necessarily want to build courses. I want to talk to people. What do I enjoy? It's about figuring out what I enjoy doing. I don't enjoy all the frigging SEO and stuff. I don't enjoy it. But I do like talking to people, and I do like meeting people and networking face-to-face, one-on-one, rather than doing it through newsletters or blog posts or being on every social media platform that there is out there. I think the biggest learning is you pick something that you enjoy doing so that you can carry on enjoying it, because then you'll have more fun and it will be easier rather than having life seem like a hard slog. I think that's the biggest learning. And the other biggest learning is you're never too old. You are never too old to start something. That's the big thing. Yeah.
And you're right, the internet doesn't sort of pop up and go, oh, sorry, you're over 50, that's it, you're out of here.
Yeah.
It's
but I think people think that. I think they go, oh no, I'm too old, I can't do that. Why?
Yeah. No, that's
no
perfect.
reason.
So if you were to sum up the term like digital success or having success online, what is that to you?
It is, well, there's a little, I think it's acknowledgement and recognition are the two things. Like money for me is not a driver. I think it's acknowledgement in terms of you've made a difference. It's that kind of acknowledgement. And also, like, I like who you are, and because I do get this a fair bit. I like who you are, and you give me permission to just be myself, because you just get out there and you have a bit of fun. And I mean, you've seen some of my posts. I do not know what's going to come out my mouth next half the time, and then I'll post it and go, whoa, did I just say that? But that's kind of, you know me in person. That is what I'm like. I spend half my life going, sorry. But I have fun with it. It doesn't mean anything. And, well, I suppose it does. But I think it's the acknowledgement that I've made a difference and recognition for making a difference, which is kind of the same thing, if you know what I mean. The monetary success is nice. It's nice, but it's not a driver. Yeah.
So for someone that's first starting out, like the monetary success for you is through your courses, or have you monetized your podcast?
I haven't monetized. So I don't do the courses anymore. That was like a year or so ago. And I only started the podcast a few months ago. So I'm just building up to the point where I can, where I've got enough regular listeners to start getting income from advertising. So it works the same as it does on YouTube. So the podcast host will put adverts before and after or whatever. I'm not entirely sure how it works. So I'm working up to that at the moment. And I am also aware that I'm in a fortunate enough position that I can allow myself to do that. I can focus entirely on the podcast. So for me right now, I'm working on literally just getting my name out there, whether that's by having other people who are who have an online presence onto the podcast, or whether I'm getting onto other people's podcasts. So it's kind of a little bit of both at the moment. Like this one. Thank you. So that's what I'm working on at the moment. I've dabbled a bit in affiliate marketing, and I do have like Amazon and that kind of thing on my website with books and stuff, but I struggle getting an income from that. Like, it's not really my thing. And partly because I don't really promote it. I do want people in my group. So I have the Facebook group, which I started a few weeks ago, and I'm really, really flattered, honoured, like excited, whatever, because, you know, I'm paying a little bit of money for Facebook ads to get people in the group, but people who are in the group are adding all their friends to the group. They're inviting all their middle-aged female friends to the group. And so all of a sudden the group's just doubling in size every week or so. And it's relationships. So they're not cold introductions. These are people whose friends are going, look, this group is great. And that's how I build the podcast. I'm really looking at just building everything organically and getting that really good base going. And what did you ask me? I've kind of gone way off my own thing.
It was about monetizing the podcast.
Right. So it'll be I've got to build up that base to get to, because you have to get to a certain number of regular listeners, and then you can monetize it. And that's what I want to do. Because when I get to that point, that means I'm making a bigger difference, you know?
Yeah. So if people want to connect with you, so they've loved your energy and what you've had to say today, tell them a little bit about how do they find you with the podcast?
So the podcast is called Menopause, Marriage and Motherhood. And probably the easiest way to find it is I'm on Facebook, and I have karen.o'connor.mmm on Facebook, Menopause, Marriage and Motherhood. So I've shortened it to MMM. But if you just put that into Facebook, that'll come up, and then there's links to the podcast, or it's on all of the platforms. It's on Spotify and iTunes and Google Play and Stitcher and TuneIn and however many else. Half of them I don't even know, like Pandora. Who's Pandora? Anyway, Pandora is apparently a platform. But if you go into any of those and put in Menopause, Marriage and Motherhood, it will come up. It might not come up first because they rank the highest ones first. So you just got to keep typing, and eventually it'll appear. So that's the easiest way of finding it. But thank you. And ladies, if you'd like to join the group, I would love to have you over there. We have a lot of fun in my group, as you know, Leanne. We have an absolute hoot. And it's about connecting and sharing and supporting other people. And that's the great thing about the internet, because of all my listeners are spread all over the world, from as far apart as Malaysia, over to Canada and the US and the UK and Ireland and New Zealand, as well as Australia. Like they're in so many countries. So that's the
There's not
fabulous
that
thing.
feeling of being on your own. Like if you're going through something, there's going to be so many other people out there that resonate, or they've either been through it or they're going through it themselves. So you have that support, which is massive.
And especially now during COVID, you know, it's such a great way of connecting with people. If you're stuck at home and you can't talk to your friends as much, it's such a cool way of connecting. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
You.
And the giggles, as always.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. And thanks everybody for listening.
Okay. All right. And we'll be back next week, next Wednesday, with a new guest. But yeah, for now, thanks, Karen.
Thanks, Leanne. Bye.